Morning! That's Ragged Top behind me, part of the Silverbell Mountains. And I'm going to stop here and talk about an anime. 5 centimeters per second. いつでも探しているよ。どっかに君の姿を。5 centimeters per second is the latest anime from director Makoto Shinkai. It's released in North America by ADV Films, and it's an anime I've been looking forward to since it was first announced. The director's voices of distant stars and the place promised in our early days have long been among my favorite anime. 5 centimeters per second is a gentle and thoughtful romance story. It's told without any of the science fiction elements that were included in the director's previous 2 videos I mentioned. It's just real people. It's been billed as 3 stories, but they're so closely tied together you might better think of it as a single story told in 3 chapters, each at a different time in the lives of a couple of people. The first chapter introduces Takaki Tono, a young boy still in grade school. Akari Shinohara is his best friend, also in the same class. They've been palling around together because they share allergies in common and they therefore don't get out into the extracurricular sports very often. They're now facing separation as their parents move to different towns, taking each of them with them to a different high school. In fact, Akari is moving quite far away. A few years later, now at age 13, Takaki decides he's going to go visit Akari, and he embarks on the longest train journey of his life. During that train journey, we'll have some time to get to know Takaki, as his backstory is told in remembrances and flashbacks to his relationship to Akari. The train ride is meant to seem quite long and interminable, and we can see how eager Takaki is to arrive by the fact that he stands steadfastly at the door, and yet the director pulls it off so that it doesn't seem boring, even though it seems like a grossly extended trip.
That afternoon, on the day I was to meet Akari, it started to snow.
Hey, Takaki! It's that cat, Chobi.
He's the little one who's always here, isn't he?
But it looks like he's all alone today. Where is Mimi, kitty? Aren't you kind of sad being all alone?
The second segment finds Takaki in yet another new town, Tanegashima, which is where the Japanese Aerospace Development Agency has its launch center. Kanai Sumida is a young girl and classmate who has a crush on him. She follows him around, flirts with him, enjoys talking with him, and she waits around by the scooter rack after school until Takaki comes out so she can ride home with him. She also provides the narration for this second segment. Sumida is waiting for the right moment to confess her love to Takaki. Somehow Takaki doesn't seem to notice her obsession with him and her ill-concealed feelings. The kid is really obtuse.
Sumida, you heading home now?
Yeah. You too, Tono?
Uh-huh. Want to head back together?
Like the passenger train ride in the first chapter that dragged on interminably for Takaki, this second segment also gives us another train, a freight train that's making its way through town with delicate components for the launch center, and it moves along bearing its payload at a mere 5 kilometers per hour, crawling along the tracks. The third segment brings us back to Akari as well as Takaki. They're both now young adults with jobs in the real world. Takaki is having the youngest midlife crisis in history. The story will conclude with a music video montage that's almost a separate fourth segment, set to what I gather is a popular song in Japan.
Last night I dreamt about the past. When we were both still children. I guess it's because of that old letter I found yesterday.
That concludes the story, or perhaps doesn't, but I approve of the way Makoto Shinkai brought the video to a conclusion. Maybe it was just me, or the music video at the end, or the train passing, but for some reason I wanted to go watch Whisper the Heart as a chaser for this. Maybe it's the subject matter. 5 centimeters per second tells its story by looking at scenery and objects and urban landscapes as much as it does by focusing on the individuals involved, and it provides the story and narration through remembrances, correspondence, and thoughts voiced over those ordinary objects which it focuses on to give us a sense of the world those people live in rather than the people themselves. There's also a lot of falling white stuff to remind us of the slow but gentle passage of time, either cherry blossoms or snow. The director says he wanted to create a romance that was quite ordinary, that wasn't obstructed by extraordinary events. This is no Romeo and Juliet where the world conspires to keep two passionate young lovers apart. Instead, it's the ordinary things of their lives and their own inability to come to grasp that tend to act as a separator between them. Surprisingly, although 5 centimeters per second is sentimental, it's only gently bittersweet, and it doesn't try to overreach for a big emotional punch, but rather settles for an understated, gently tickling of the emotions. When I watched 5 centimeters per second for the first time, I was astounded at the detail of the artwork and the eye for the detail that the artist had. There were little things like the irregularity of icicles hanging from a ledge, or little drops of water clinging to a mirror, or rainwater accumulating between bricks, or a bolt missing from a sign. In fact, the artwork was so detailed it was almost distracting. I actually went back and rewatched the first 10 minutes again just to concentrate on the story so I could stop gaping at the artwork. After I watched the extras, I saw that one of the reasons for this is they actually went out and scouted locations for everything they drew and took photographs and then rendered the photographs into videos. So their eye for detail was actually omitting details from the photographs rather than choosing what details they wanted to pick in the artwork. The biggest artistic exaggerations occurred with the night sky. Somehow it was disappointing to learn how much of this artwork was actually inspired by photographs, though not so disappointing as Ralph Bakshi's sad infatuation with rotoscoping back in the 70s. Since this is a quiet story, it's not going to appeal to people who are looking for big action, sci-fi, mecha, heroes, psychic combat, magical girls, or harem comedy. For my taste, however, this story is serious and truly enjoyable, and I give it the full 5 stars. I'm sure I'm going to rewatch this often. ADV's dub is okay. The Japanese voice actor used a single actor for the Takaki character, but used 2 different characters for Akari, one very young and one as more mature woman. ADV went with a single actor for each of the 2 characters. ADV's DVD also includes a number of extras. That includes some production notes which show the photographs I already mentioned, and an interview with director Makoto Shinkai, which is refreshingly candid, and also nice to see someone whose shirts need ironing more than mine. It also includes some making-of videos and interviews with the Japanese voice cast. Strangely, there are no production notes from ADV's English dub. Thanks for listening.